Hello and welcome to Console Shock, retro and modern gaming chat with me, Trev, and Stu. How's it going, Stu?
Yeah, it's going really well, Trev, really well. I'm pumped for the weekend.
Yeah, we're recording on a Friday, which is always a good day to record, isn't it? Everyone's
I
feeling
don't
a
really
bit more
know that, do
enthusiastic.
they? Yeah, it is Friday. I've had a long week at work.
Well, it's irrelevant to the people listening. Yeah, they don't give a crap what day it is. It's like Tuesday for them. They might be depressed if anything because it's the middle of the week. But yeah, we're happy. So it's Friday. So I hope you are as well. And we're also joined today again, and hopefully not for the last time. First of many more visits is Al. How's it going, Al?
It's going well. Good to be back. Thank you for having me once again.
How are things in Canada?
Very Canadian right now. I think that we've had a lot of snow and a lot of storms and things, and stuff starting to perk up a little bit, which is good. Starting to get.
Al, were you one of those truckers that were blocking bridges and causing trouble? I bet you were, weren't you?
No, but they did make it very difficult for me to get back to work on time for my lunch break at one point. Nipped out for lunch, and it was a bit tough with the traffic there. Yeah,
well, that sucks. I bless the rains down in Canada. It's a little song that I made.
Freezing rain.
Yeah. Well, snow, I guess, really, isn't it? Yeah. Well, Stu has been talking to us already before we hit the record button here about his new Macintosh MacBook Pro. So you're having a bit of fun getting used to that at the moment, aren't you, Stu?
I am, yeah, because I've never had it's actually a MacBook Air I got, so I thought, I'm not going to, spend the real sort of big bucks on a sort of MacBook Pro and, loads of Ultra, Pro, Max processors.
Macintosh Performer, Macintosh Quadra, Power Mac G5. There's too many options these days.
So I went for the basic one, and to be honest, I'm really enjoying it. But I'm still going through that phase of for everything I need to do. I think, okay, so I have to Google, how do I take a snip on a screen? How do I copy and paste on a Mac? How do I do this on a Mac? That seems to be, every time I try and do something, it's not just browsing the internet, there seems to be a little bit more of a little bit of a learning curve. And then once you know, that's fine. You're good.
Yeah.
And, you'll sort of remember it, and away you go. But it's really good. It's really sort of intuitive, and I love the big touchpad. And I went and brought myself a mouse, and never actually use it. I just use the touchpad, so it's really good.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I remember.
There you go.
When I switched, when it was kind of a thing where people switching was a thing, and there was an advertising campaign by Apple about it and everything. So quite funny and quite well-renowned ads back in the day. I think it was 2004. I remember I went. I was at uni, and I went to get a computer for uni. I just wanted a computer, but uni was a good excuse, and I had the uni money for it to pay for it. And I bought I went to Dixon's or some stupid place like that, and got a crappy Hewlett Packard thing. And as soon as I took it home and messed around with it, I thought, this is rubbish. I don't want this. At this point, I wasn't really thinking, I want a Mac or anything. I'd never really been into them. My only experience with them, and we've talked about it before on the podcast, was I used a titanium PowerBook G4 in sixth form college very briefly, and I thought that was amazing. I was blown away by that machine, but it was never something I'd ever buy. And when I was that age, I didn't have money for just even a PC laptop. But for some reason, something twigged in me that I thought, you know what, maybe I should look into getting a Mac. I remember that same Dixon's had a couple of Macs in there. They had an iBook and I think maybe just an iBook G4 as they were then, which is basically, well, there isn't really an equivalent to that at the moment in the current lineup. Maybe the MacBook Air, I guess, kind of. But yeah, there was an iBook G4, and I was like, yeah, whatever. But then I returned the laptop that I got from Dixon's, and I got the money back, and I thought, right, I'm doing it. I'm getting a Mac. And I bought an iBook G4, a 14-inch iBook G4, 1.33 gigahertz with 512 meg of RAM. And yeah, I haven't looked, but this is it might have been early 2005 when I actually pulled the trigger. So I'd been at uni a few months at that point. I got a student discount because Apple are great at that sort of thing. And yeah, that's how I went in. I think I went through the same stuff you went through. I went through all the same, working out the different buttons and everything. This is like Mac OS 10.3 Panther. But it was clear. I mean, this was when PCs were still in the Windows world in these days, so it was an absolute huge leap in like even like things like the system font was way more sophisticated than what XP was using, you know, and like having things like being able to jump between windows by having them all zoom out in one go, so you can flip between them and all that stuff was really cool. Al, what was your first Mac actually?
Mine was a Mac Mini, in all honesty.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, and I'm still rocking a Mac Mini right now as well.
I've got one. They're brilliant.
Yeah. In fact, I've got two Mac Minis at the moment, and one's an older one that I can dual boot still into Windows XP for those old Star Trek games.
Oh, brilliant! You've got it set up. You've got it set up with that then.
Yes, it's a 2009 Mac Mini, and yeah, they were the last ones to support dual boot into XP.
Oh, nice one. Do all the drivers work, and you can get all the graphics going on?
To be honest, so that old Mac Mini performs way better than the PCs I was using back in the day for those Star Trek games. So when I'm playing it, it's better than I've ever had it.
Wow.
Which is great. Yeah. No compromises. No compromises.
That was a great
I've
machine.
got a question for you guys. Actually, when I lived in Canada in 2002, now I don't know the right answer to this, and you guys can have a guess, but the house I shared with a few other people, in the living room, you know, where I sort of checked my emails, you know, looked on the BBC News, was a Mac in 2002. And I remember it being some sort of maybe a tower of some sort.
The power Mac.
I think it. Yeah, was that what it was?
2002. Did you say that'll probably be a Power Mac G4? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There were several generations of the Power Mac G4. The last one is called, which is the one that I have. I've got two of them. So I didn't want two of them, but I bought one that I thought was broken, and it started working on its own. And when I thought that one still wasn't working, I bought a second one, and that which I also thought wasn't working, and they both are working. So I've got these two hulking great big towers. They're great though. They're brilliant machines. I mean, for upgradability, they're crazy. You just like flip open one door on the side, no tools needed. You flip open one door on the side, bam, you can get to everything. Put new RAM, hard drive, graphics card, the lot in there. They're great machines. It's really cheap on eBay as well if you want to pick up a second-hand one, like 50 to 100 quid for the tower. And obviously, you plug in any old USB keyboard and mouse and all that stuff and display.
I ended up getting a couple of those myself, and sadly, those had to go when I moved to Canada. My iBook G4, actually, a good friend of mine, still has. Still has it, and so it's still going strong with somebody who cares about older tech. So very, very happy about that.
Oh, wicked! iBook G4s, they were great machines. Very rugged, very, very rugged. Big solid plastic chunks of a laptop. Though they were small, like at the time they came out, but now obviously they're not quite so thin. But Stu, you had your titanium PowerBook, didn't you, that you bought recently? Is that? Have you got it all set up now?
I've got it all set up, and thank you very much, Trev. You gave me some absolute great sort of tips there.
Oh, I was helpful in the end.
Yeah. So I bought it off eBay. Had no hard drive, so I went to a friend's house, and we spent the evening sort of drinking beers and trying to get this little SD. What was it? SATA hard drive working, and then we managed to get the operating system on there. And to be honest with you, the DVD drive doesn't seem to quite work properly.
Yeah, mine are a bit janky in my ones. Yeah,
it was just spinning and spinning. So we connected it with FireWire cables, and then we actually installed it from his titanium G4 back onto mine. So then we got it up and running. But weirdly, it wouldn't connect via the Ethernet port to the internet.
Yeah.
And something I was like, I couldn't get my head around, like, why is that not happening? So I don't know an answer other than saying it's faulty. and just it's got a bit of a dent on the bottom, and so I'm just assuming it doesn't work. So Trev suggested getting. He sent me a link saying buy this one.
Yeah.
So I bought a PCMI CIA card, stuck it in the side, and just connected to the internet. Simple as that. And so now I've got it all connected to the internet, and I played a few games on there, things like Wolfenstein, Quake 3 Arena, play really well, and I think it's a smashing machine, and you can really see the design language and how it's gone from that to sort of what I'm looking at now. Whatever operating system I'm on now, you guys will probably know, but the latest one, because I updated.
Monterey.
Yeah, Monterey.
Yeah.
Named after the cheese.
Question for you: have you played Marathon on your older Mac?
Oh yeah, the Halo, made by the Halo guys.
Yeah, Bungie.
Oh,
yeah.
is it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of their big games because they started on Macs. That was and simply because that was the platform that they happened to own at the time. So they made Marathon, which was widely successful, and then went on, and obviously Halo then became like the next big thing.
Yeah, it was kind of the sort of Mac FPS from. Also, you had Doom and Quake and stuff, but it was a unique kind of Mac game, wasn't it? Marathon that didn't really appear in anything else.
Lots of tall aliens to shoot.
Yes, yeah. It's really good. So yeah, I think. Did you get Mac OS 9 on there as well as?
I didn't. I haven't. Yeah, so I've got 10.4
Tiger. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to make up Elephant. 10.4, I believe, is Elephant.
We nearly got to those animals. Yeah. We're just on locations now, unfortunately, but yeah.
Yeah, elephants are my favorite cats. I must say.
Yeah.
They're all named after cats, are they?
They were, yeah. Yeah, big cats.
Until they started running out of cat names.
Mavericks was the first one that was about a location.
Felix.
It was going to get to... Yeah, there was always a joke that they were going to run out. We'd have like domestic cat, Tabby, and and all that stuff. But I think Mountain Lion...
that'd be good.
Mountain Lion was the last big cat. And then there was still more left after that, but I think they realised they were on a hiding to nothing. So we better just use locations, then we'll never run out. In California at the moment, specifically. So yeah,
right.
That's the naming convention at the moment. But
we're on Mac OS Compton now, aren't we?
Oh, that'll probably be the next one.
Might be.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure we'll get updates on Stu's baptism in the world of Apple sort of computing over the coming weeks. But what we're actually going to talk about today is a bit of the old Nintendo. You like a bit of Nintendo, don't you guys?
Love it.
I do. Yeah. Actually, more so now than when I was younger, even. So
interesting. So specifically a console that in my head I kind of felt that we'd already covered because we've kind of gone through the sixth gen, the rest of the sixth gen consoles over the last few years on the show, like the Xbox, the PS2, of course, and the PS2 did very, very early of the audio podcast many years ago now, which is kind of crazy. I think how long it's been going. I've done the Xbox and we had the Dreamcast special with the Dreamcast Junkyard guys a few years ago, which was great. But we've left one out, and it's one that I think I'm quite fond of. So I don't know why it didn't really occur to me to do it sooner, but it's fine. So we're going to do it now. It is the Nintendo GameCube, and it's in an interesting point in history right now because I feel like I don't want to be one of those like Metal Jesus or like CU podcasts that constantly go on about how games are getting more expensive and why. The GameCube is in that sweet spot now where people that were little kids. When this came out, and it perhaps was their first console. I mean, unfortunately, that's not us. I was already, well into my 20s when this came out. Just in my 20s, actually, not well into them. But I was an adult, nonetheless. So, it didn't have that mystique for me. But a lot of those people now, where it was their first console, they're rebuying. They're in their 20s, maybe even hitting their 30s. They're rebuying those games, and the GameCube sort of shot up a little bit in terms of pricing. So it came out originally in North America on November 18th, 2001, around the same time as the original Xbox, quite a bit behind the PS2, though, which was the previous year. And it also came out over here. We had a big gap, as we did with all consoles in those days. It came out over here in May 2002. In fact, it was the last of the 6th gen consoles to come out in the UK. So we had to wait a little while for it here, but we did get it. It was the cheapest when it came out. I think it was about 130 quid.
130. That's.
Can you imagine a console coming out at that price nowadays? It was unusual
then. Unheard of.
Yeah, I mean that wasn't common then. I mean PS2 was 300. The original Xbox was 300. Like very quickly got nudged down because Sony did their brilliant trick of, when their rival console comes out, they knock the price down, which they've been doing since the PS1 days.
So Nintendo are like, yeah, good luck trying it on with this one.
Yeah, they've been hit twice by Sony doing that. I remember N64 came out at 250 quid in the UK. The same day, Sony knocked the PS1 down from 200 to 130. Which stole a bit of the thunder of the Nintendo 64. And then about 2 months later, Nintendo were forced to drag the price down of the N64 to 150 to be in the ballpark of the PlayStation. Ultimately, it was 100 quid by the end of the year that it came out. So you can imagine if you bought the N64 March 97 when it came out for us, and then at Christmas the same year it was 100, I think you'd be slightly miffed with that, wouldn't you?
I think he would be,
yeah. But no, the GameCube kind of came out, a good price straight away. It was cheaper than all the other consoles. Obviously, they did come down in price eventually as well. Big factor was the thing. In fact, it didn't have a DVD drive. That probably saved them a bit of cost there. But yeah, I mean that's enough from me. Al, I mean, do you have any sort of memories of the GameCube when it came out? Did you start playing it later on down the line when maybe it was already on its way out? What are your memories of the GameCube?
So yeah, I definitely stumbled into it a lot later. I have one here in Canada as well. Not the one that I had in the UK. That was that had to go, and might be able to talk about that later.
Yeah.
But when it came out, I think that I was on a kind of stale feeling with Nintendo. I mean, we'd grown up with Sega, right? So Nintendo was never really a big thing for me. The Game Boy was really where I enjoyed Nintendo. And the N64, I was never keen on the controller. I didn't really like it. It also was kind of designed like, do I need 3 arms for this?
Guess not.
Yeah, and there's something about the aspect ratio, which always I didn't really like. So there was a lot of things there that kind of put me off. And then you've got the Xbox out, the PlayStation 2, and then we've got the GameCube, and it was just like, this feels like they're targeting younger players. And now that I'm in my 20s, I feel like I'm moving on for this. So I didn't really give it that much attention, in all honesty.
Oh, okay.
And as sort of time went on, I started to realize that I was missing out on quite a few classics, and so I did end up picking up one, mainly because I really just wanted to play a Turtles game. So I got the Ninja Turtles game for it. It's really not that good. The game.
No, it's sort of like a hack and slash sort of beat 'em up, isn't it? Those 3 of them. There was 3 of them, wasn't there? Yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah. But I also got Terminator 3 Redemption, which was good. That was actually a very excellent Terminator game.
Yeah, that's a great game. Like an on-rails sort of shooter, third-person shooter.
That's it, yeah. And then you're looking at things like Mario Kart, Double Dash, Rogue Leader, which as a launch title was especially phenomenal.
Oh, brilliant game, yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of my initial foray into things. And my experience moving to Canada and trying to deal with the regional differences has certainly been a challenge. So I had to give up, I'd say, about a third of my library because they're not all compatible. Yeah. One of the things, because you've got like the whole PAL and NTSC thing, when you're playing some games that don't work at the right frequency, they appear purple.
Right, yeah.
And one of the Spider-Man games, I can't remember exactly the name of which one it was. It's the one where you're kind of switching between Spider-Man and Venom.
Okay, yeah.
And there's a whole section where you have to pick up orbs. And so, like, I think it's like blue ones, you get points, red ones, you lose points. They're all purple when you view them on a Canadian console. So I'm looking at them, I can't tell the difference between the colors, and it just made it completely unplayable.
Yeah.
So half my life be a UK ones that I have to use a loaded disc to play.
Right, yeah,
and then
like a freeloader or something.
That's it,
yeah.
Yeah, and then the other half are now North American titles and stuff. And I play it from time to time. It's nice to have, for sure.
Cool. Stu, what about you?
I think I'm actually the opposite. I bought mine on day one. I was
2002.
Yeah, 2002. So as soon as it came out, I got it with Rogue Leader, and I thought that was an absolutely smashing game. It
looks stunning,
really
doesn't
good.
it? Like
it still stands up really well.
Yeah, 60 frames a second. Yeah.
It really does, and I think today, I almost want to say it's quite good. You know, when you get a new console, and then you get like one game, and it basically had 10 levels, and each one, if you know what you're doing, you can complete it in about sort of 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's so there's not actually a lot of content.
It's good for that, isn't it? You can just dip in and out. You could just do one mission, go back and do an older one if you want to get the extra trophies. Well, they're not trophies, obviously. They're like little Jedi like symbols you can collect, isn't it, and everything, and you get a rating on how long it took you. And yeah.
So there's a lot of replayability, and sort of quite like an old arcade game, really. And you have to sort of replay to get all of these little rewards and stuff. But I mean, I was a big fan of it, and I think every new game, things like Mario Sunshine, what else did I get? Super Monkey Ball, Pikmin. As they came out, I sort of picked them up, and I remember I got Winning 11. I want to say 6 Final Evolution.
Oh yeah, Japan. Yeah.
I picked that up, and
it's Pro Evolution really Soccer 2 to people that wondering what the hell that is. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, but it was like 2, but then it came out like 3 or 4 months later. So did some improvements to it.
It's that weird thing. We did that episode, God, yonks ago now. We did like a history of Konami football games, soccer games, and
it rarely comes up on here.
Yeah. We never talk about football games. There's a weird thing where in the sort of Pro Evolution Soccer glory days, like 2000s, really late 90s to 2000s, we're definitely not in a glory day now with it. We're in the dark ages of Pro Evo now, or eFootball, whatever the hell they call it. But yeah, it was a weird thing where Japan would get Winning 11, and then they would convert that into Pro Evolution Soccer for us, basically take out the J League teams and put international teams and English commentary and everything. And then they would release that back to Japan with the international teams, but with a few extra tweaks as like Final Evolution. And sometimes they would get a J League version and an international teams version. So they would get like 3 releases of the same game in 1 year. Effectively, which is mental now, when you think about it. But yeah,
what they should have done, just to differentiate them, is actually have the players evolve into other creatures. That would have shaken things up a little bit more.
Maybe mix it with Pokemon in some way.
Yeah.
Some people would go crazy for that. You got to collect them. That's just FIFA Ultimate Team, collecting all the players.
God, now there's going to be a game where you're going around kidnapping football stars.
Yeah. And then we have like online streamers screeching, and it's like a Twitch stream of them opening, capturing players, getting loads of money for it.
Players actually screaming.
Yeah. I'm doing real life FIFA Ultimate Team. I'm actually kidnapping real players
and unboxing them.
Yeah, I'll put them into a tiny little box. Oh my god, that'd be weird, but entertaining. But yeah, it was. So the GameCube got basically. Pro Evolution Soccer 2, but we didn't get that in the UK, did we, Stu? It was just they just got it in Japan, and
just got that in Japan, and that's actually a really good football game. But you couldn't do leagues or anything. All I could sort of work out was how to start a game, and you always had to remember to take out your memory card because it.
You could save different
the
regions.
UK one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't. It would automatically format it.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a pain. What other games I have? Wind Waker. That was really good. When I came back from Canada, I got Mario Kart Double Dash, and I just thought it was a really good sort of quality game machine, and unfortunately, it didn't do quite as well as the PlayStation. But I've got a lot of fond memories of it, and
I had kind of I had a funny relationship with that sort of sixth generation. I already had a Dreamcast, so we talked about the Dreamcast a lot. So I kind of was there at that sort of early era of that generation. So I didn't really feel a huge need to go and dive into a PS2 or an Xbox. So I was still playing that, when we got to 2002, really. I was still playing my Dreamcast. The games were starting to get cheap, so I could just get a decent collection going even then. Even though it was, basically the support was dying completely by 2002. But I think I played a couple of mates' GameCubes. I didn't think it looked that impressive when it came out. What I liked about it was it looked like it was kind of getting a lot of the Sega sort of the games that perhaps would have come out on the Dreamcast, like Monkey Ball particularly, and Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Adventure Deluxe or DX. That was coming out on the GameCube, so it kind of made me gravitate towards it versus the other consoles. And I think I picked up. There was a really good pack they brought out near the end of 2003, where you got Double Dash and you got the Zelda Collector's Edition pack.
Which that was good.
Yeah, it was a great thing where you got obviously Mario Kart Double Dash, which is a really great Mario Kart, very underrated. No one really talks about it, but it's probably my second favorite after 64. Really great Mario Kart game. So it came with that, and then it also came with the Zelda Collector's Edition, where you got a disc that contained Ocarina of Time. The N64, they sort of ported it across, or they got an emulator running on the GameCube. I'm not entirely sure they did. I think it was an emulator. Majora's Mask, the Master Quest, I think, of Ocarina of Time, and you got Zelda 1 and 2, and maybe you got A Link to the Past. I'm not sure you did, actually. I think you just got the two NES games. Yeah.
Bundle, though.
It was a great bundle when you got like a half an hour demo of Wind Waker as well. And I was a little bit like one of those people who's like, oh, these graphics are stupid, this game's crap. But now, having played the quite a lot of the HD Wii U version, it's really good fun. Although the HD Wii U version is a lot better. A lot of the sort of jankiness has been taken out. Now, if you try and play a lot of those games, like the camera controls are straight away annoying because it's inverted. Because that's a lot of 6th gen games had inverted camera controls. Now it's the standard that we have now, and that's fixed in the Wii U version. But so I got that.
I mean, talking about awful controls is Metroid Prime 1 and 2. People talk so fondly about it, but it's basically a 3D first person shooter, and you just use the left stick to sort of do everything, and the right stick is I can't remember what it was for, but
it's really
it certainly
weird,
wasn't looking around.
And
I actually picked those up not too long ago. I got Metroid Prime and Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. I've still not really played around with them that much, but I totally agree on that.
The controls are. I don't want to say they're bad controls. They're just you. If you played any first-person shooter in the last 20 years, that will just feel completely wrong.
I think everyone says play the Wii version these days with the because it works really well with the Wiimote and the nunchuck. You can get the trilogy, can't you? Now.
I mean, this was always a thing though, moving to first-person shooters and stuff. Because I remember when they first came out, we were still using arrow keys on computers to do that before everybody switched to WASD. So there was always this kind of thing where people were trying to figure out what was the right control scheme. And certainly for console, when first-person shooters were still not really that commonplace on them, it's not surprising that they'd be trying all sorts of stuff.
Well, there's the other famous example of the first console game to use that control scheme we have now is Alien Resurrection on the PlayStation 1. And it got really bad reviews for it. The reviewers saying, "Oh, the controls are stupid, like putting look on one stick and move on the other. It's awful. It's unintuitive. I hate it." And that was the first game that established it. And now you can play that game and you can get straight into it and play it. Because it's, it's not a hugely enjoyable game. It's very, very hard. I would even argue Alien Isolation is a lot easier, which is a very hard modern Alien game. But it's fun. It's better than the film, which is not saying much. Came out like 3 years after the film came out. It was really weird, but a very good late PS1 game is Alien Resurrection. And yeah, like I said, it's got the modern controls. First game to have it. But no, you're right, Al. It was it was a difficult time getting to that. It wasn't for Sony sort of because weirdly, like the two sticks on the DualShock, the first DualShock, they weren't really used that well for the majority of the games. Ape Escape had a gimmick with it where one stick was where you hit your lightsaber thing onto and use the other one to use the net to catch the monkeys or the apes. I remember Quake 2 on the PS1. That really kind of quite cool port of Quake 2 used both sticks, but not in the normal way, in a really weird kind of crap way. So yeah, I don't know if it's like spawning.
That was it. I watched a YouTube video about it, and they were saying that actually there was sort of research at the time that said, 60% of people haven't actually got the DualShock controller.
Yeah,
They've got to do everything with the. It was only a few games that really sort of made a big deal about.
Racing games really. It's probably where they were most useful. Yeah, Spyro, probably. Yeah, there wasn't really many Nintendo 64 style open world platform games apart from Spyro. So, Rayman 2. There's a port of Rayman 2, and also the Dreamcast came out later that only had one stick. And that was the next gen. But yeah, in terms of the GameCube, the controls weren't that well established. I did play Metroid Prime recently on my. I've got a couple of GameCubes these days. It was enjoyable. The controls are annoying. I do find it tedious that you kind of have to scan every single thing that you walk around in. Like you're in a room, you got to scan this little MacGuffin on the wall to get a clue to. And I was like, oh. Can't you just do can't you just scan the whole room in one go? And then, I know some people are like, well, that's fun, isn't it? You're investigating stuff. And I'm like, no, I'll find that quite tedious. But I'm missing the point, perhaps. You know what? I've never been a big Metroid fan.
No.
I do like, the only Metroidvania that I like is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. But it's got a really good map. Which is a big factor in those. Like, I know Metroid on the Super Nintendo has a map, but it's not as good as it's kind of a very tiny little mini map. I know you get a big giant book with it that you can literally read to work out where you need to go. But yeah, I'm just like, ugh. I just want to go to the left or to the right. I just want to walk to the right to get to the end. Can I just do that? But yeah, I never had Metroid Prime back in the day when it came out. But yeah, I remember I got FIFA 2004 when it had that was back when you got the actual FIFA that was the same one on the other consoles in those days. We're a long way away from that now. We get sort of like the Xbox 360 version, don't we, on the Switch?
We don't buy it. Don't buy it.
Don't buy it because it's a complete waste of. Get one and then you're covered. Basically.
FIFA 18, it's the same.
Get 18 for like £5 or whatever it is now. Yeah,
exactly.
And yeah, I remember that Double Dash pack with the Zelda collection. I think that was like £100. I think it already knocked the price down to £100 then. So it was great value for money. I think the PS2 was still probably 130, 140 quid at that point, and the Xbox was as well. So it was great value for money. And I remember. Oh yeah, talking of really annoying controls. I mean, Super Mario Sunshine. God, if you step away from that game for a couple of days because you go back to it, it's like you never played it. It's just the jankiest controls, and it's just. I
always found it difficult transitioning from characters that had 2D games into their 3D counterparts.
Yeah.
So, trying to play Mario Sunshine or even Super Mario 64 when that first came out, or even Sonic on the Dreamcast, I always found those really weird at the time they were released, just because I was so familiar with the side-scrolling platformers. Now I find it's a little bit easier to get into them, but at the time, I really struggled. I don't know what it was like for you guys on that.
Oh, yeah. I remember playing Mario 64 for the first time and really struggling with the analog controls. I mean, eventually you got good at them, but literally it took like about a solid week of playing it before you got, because it was so foreign, using an analog stick to control a guy, you know.
Yeah, and I'd be using the demo stations that they would have in stores when you would go in, and they'd actually have a console set up behind like a glass, like a plastic box kind of thing with the controller sticking out, and you could have a little play. I remember playing it, just going, I really can't get to grips with this.
Yeah, it took a while. I remember that. I mean, I just completed Super Mario Odyssey, and God, Mario is a dream to control in that. It's so easy to do every single move, and it's fairly straight. It's playing it. It felt like Super Mario 64 2. Basically, it's very similar structure wise. Not
I love that game. That was
I thought it was brilliant.
Such a good experience. You could just pick it up and then what was it? You had to get the stars or the coins,
moons,
moons, So get 3 or 4 moons. It will unlock something else, and then it was just I just liked exploring the levels, and I thought that was I thought it was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, well, talking about Mario, the one thing that this is kind of reminding me of is the fact that the GameCube never had a Mario launch title, because we had Luigi and Luigi's Mansion, and I remember that being such an odd thing. Like, why is there no Mario game? And
it was later on in the year, I think. Sunshine came out, maybe even the following year, perhaps. Yeah,
it was a while without a Mario helmed game. And Luigi's Mansion has kind of over the years been proclaimed as being a really good game, and I've always wanted to play it on the GameCube. But that's one of those titles that very early on started going for crazy money, and it's still expensive to get. Now, I saw recently that it has come out on the Switch.
It's on the 3DS. There's a really good port to the 3DS. A very late one, actually. Yeah, I didn't realize it slipped past me. But in 2018, after the Switch had come out, they made a port of the first Luigi's Mansion. Weirdly, the sequel came out on the 3DS very early in the 3DS's life. I think maybe when it was a launch game, perhaps. No, I don't think it was, actually. It might have been a little bit later. But yeah, Luigi's Mansion 2 came out way back on the 3DS. But in 2018, they ported the first one. A really good, if you go on Digital Foundry, John Lineman there, bit of a legend, good old John, does a really good video comparing the GameCube and the 3DS versions. And they're very, very close. In fact, there's a few improvements in terms of the graphics, because the 3DS is kind of similar to the GameCube specs wise. Do
they still have the Game Boy Horror that pops up in the bottom corner?
Yeah, I think everything is still in there.
which is a nice touch. But again, I've only seen it through videos. I've always wanted to play it. I've always wanted to try and get it for my GameCube, but it is just obscenely expensive these days for an original GameCube copy.
Oh yes, it is. Yeah, it's one of those sought after games. So I would advise, really to get the 3DS version, and to watch that might start shooting up in prices. A very, very late 3DS release. Again, like I said, after the Switch had already come out. But it's a really good version of the game. So if you want to play it, that might be the best version to play these days. You could check that out. I never really got into. I have dived into it a few times. Luigi's Mansion. It's nothing like any other Mario game. You're basically just going from room to room, clearing them of ghosts until you come across like a boss ghost, and then that opens up another part of the. So weirdly, it's like a Metroidvania, but not as sort of labyrinthy, if that's a good way of putting it. It is kind of linear-ish, but you can backtrack.
It's always looked like a cartoony Ghostbusters style game.
Basically, yeah.
Sort of like a Resident Evil for kids.
Right, yeah. Resident Evil babies. But Resident Evil kids, like, Virtua Fighter kids. But yeah, I mean, it's a good game. I mean, I just haven't been able to sort of sit down and just hammer through it. Maybe I did buy the 3DS game when I saw it over here. You would remember as well. Argos are always really good for doing big sales on games.
Oh, yeah.
You know, often when a console's dying or on its last legs, they'll just fire sale all the games, and they got like Luigi's Mansion for the 3DS for like a tenner. And I've already seen on eBay it's going for like 30-40 quid for secondhand copies. So I did well there. So yeah, probably the best. It's definitely worth checking out. I've got the sequels on the 3DS and the Switch, but I just need to get around to playing that first one hardcore. And but yeah, some really great games. I mean, it was probably the last Nintendo console where you really got all of the franchises together. Since then, we've kind of got a few, but not all. What I mean by that is you literally have like F-Zero, a Star Wing game or a Star Fox game, Wave Race, Mario Golf, Mario Super Mario Strikers, or Mario Smash Football. Although we're getting a new one of that on the Switch soon. Smash Bros, Zelda, of course, a Mario game. So yeah, Mario Tennis. So you got all the Mario sports games, you know, which kind of, you know, really matured on that. Mario Golf is a lot of fun.
Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers. Yeah, it's not really my cup of tea, to be fair. But you still see people today, you know, playing Smash Brothers. Oh yeah, we've got to play it on the GameCube. Smash Brothers Melee. It's just like the best version.
Yeah, I played it recently. I did quite enjoy it. I think because I started trying to play it like a regular 3D beat 'em up game, and it's really you just use one button and like, well, there's kind of two buttons, but I was really just it took me about an hour to sort of just get out of that mindset and just, you know, you're just really trying to sort of wail on someone until they get knocked off the stage. But it was fun when I worked that out. It was fun. I can't sound like a hardcore like I'm going to play all the games now or anything. But yeah. Al, sorry, you were going to say something.
Oh yeah, just that with that game, I always kind of had like a love-hate relationship with it, I suppose, in some regards. I got it, you know, just to play casually with some friends, and so I still have a copy of it. But I always found that there was just so much going on in terms of UI, like just a lot of action, which visually looks great, but I just found it very distracting.
Oh, yes. It's difficult to keep up with your character, isn't it? Yeah.
That's it. You can end up with so much going on screen. It's like, where am I? And you suddenly realize you're actually on the complete opposite side of the screen because you've just been blasted off somewhere. So it's a little bit more challenging to play in that regard. Maybe I just like things a little bit more from a simpler time. Perhaps.
Yeah, it's a bit like your senses are being overloaded a little bit by it. I definitely felt that when I was playing it.
But these consoles were suddenly capable of doing that. That was the other thing, though. The GameCube was powerful enough to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the GameCube, a lot of those games haven't really aged too badly because obviously it had that. It was at the point where, certainly for the one with the games of the Nintendo characters, the quality of the rendering and the sort of the polygon performance that the GameCube could do, because it was kind of in between. It was stronger than the PS2, not quite where the Xbox was, but it was kind of in the middle there. God, that's a unique thing as well. It was kind of the last Nintendo console that really was on the same level as the. Although, Stu, you might start screeching that the Switch isn't competing with the PlayStation 4 and 5.
It's a portable console.
It's a portable console.
It's a portable. It's a portable console. You can't compare the two.
Yeah, it's like the Sega Nomad. That wasn't a home console, just because you plug it into a telly.
So Stuart, tell me, what is the GameCube? Is it a console or is it a portable console?
Oh no, that's a home console. Just because it's got a handle, you can't be calling that a portable console.
You could get those little funny screens for it as well, couldn't you? Those little separate Logic 3 screens you could plonk on the top that were terrible.
That's still not portable. You couldn't play. If you can play it on a bus, it's portable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they did release some interesting accessories, including a screen, a little bit like they did with the PS1.
Yeah.
There was a screen available, so it was possible, and there was a battery pack, so you technically could. But yes, not by design, not by design. No. But the handle was an interesting concept for it, because we hadn't had a handle on a console before.
No.
I mean, the idea was obviously so you could just take it to your friend's house and chuck it in front of the TV, and also it had 4 controller ports. So it was designed as like, oh, this is the best sort of party machine, and again, games like Smash Brothers, Double Dash,
Monkey Ball, Mario Party,
Monkey Ball, Mario Party.
Yeah.
They all really sort of just used all the features of the GameCube, and really sort of, well, from that point of view, that was, I think, I would actually argue that people who really loved the GameCube really, really did enjoy it. It's the last great sort of couch co-op,
yes,
type machine, really.
Yeah,
I agree entirely. I kind of, it's one of those things that as time's gone on and I've gotten into it, just like I was saying before about my reservations about it, I feel like I missed that boat, that it's a shame that I didn't get into it when it came out, because it really was an understated machine.
Oh yeah,
and,
I mean,
yeah, and like you say, with all those ports and the handle, I mean, it's a bold statement. Just just visually, just telling you exactly how they envision it would be played compared to all the competition.
Yeah, and like sort of the graphical fidelity being like at that level now, where they were matching kind of the CG renders of like you would see on the box art for the Nintendo characters. That's why those games haven't really aged. You play a game like Smash or Mario Sunshine or Double Dash. The character models, they look brilliant. They look like actual what you would get in their artwork. Obviously, it was a far cry from the N64 when you get these boxy, very minimal, clunky looking characters, just because of the limitations of what the N64 could do graphically. But then now with the GameCube, we really were there with this beautiful looking 3D artwork. And also, it's kind of the last thing to focus on before we wind up for today's show. It's a great console to play in modern times. One sort of quick thing that's really great is the GameCube has a digital video output. It was actually the second console to have that. The first being the PC Engine, but the GameCube.
Oh, really?
The GameCube has a certain models. I would say the majority of the ones that are out there have a second video output. Yeah, it did get taken out later, but most of the models have a digital video out next to the regular sort of AV multi-out, and that is capable of outputting a digital video signal. It's not the HDMI standard. It's a different form. It was basically there because I think they were planning on making some like a 3D headset or virtual reality headset or 3D glasses that would plug into that port. But in current days, you can actually now use that port to get a really nice, crisp digital video signal that can be very easily converted to HDMI, and then you can plug that into your HDMI. So if you've got a GameCube these days and it's got that digital AV out, there's lots of options now to get it connected to a modern TV and have it look great. The GameCube is capable of 480p progressive scan. So it looks really, really good on modern day TVs. Not all the games support progressive scan, but there are ways to force it, to force games to go into progressive scan. There are ways of doing that. So it's a really great, just to plug it into a modern display is really good. You can't quite say that about the other systems of its era. The Xbox isn't too bad. It's got like really nice components.
It's all right.
Yeah.
I've got mine plugged into an LCD, but mine doesn't have that digital video out, sadly. So I've got to go into a converter box, and the quality's not that great. So I've always kind of had it in the back of my mind. Should I, at some point, maybe see if I can get one of the older models that does have that? Because at the moment, I have it set up alongside all my arcade machines, and so it's great for having Crazy Taxi.
Yeah, it was still had a version of Crazy Taxi. It still had the actual proper music in it, didn't it, and everything before they butchered it in subsequent years. That's what I like
going back. Pizza Hut and KFC in it as well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I remember. I
was going to mention. Sorry to jump in there, Trev, but all about the good accessories it had. Things like the Wavebird, and in Japan there was a controller with a whole keyboard on. You had the not Bluetooth, broadband adapter. You had the Game Boy Advance adapter. There were. I think they really sort of led the way. The bongos, as another one.
Yeah, Donkey Konga.
They sort of led the way with sort of the accessories.
The Wavebird is probably the
and
big
stuff.
one, I think. The Wavebird was the first really good wireless controller, first-party wireless controller, and it's still great to this day. That's the controller that I use with mine. They're very expensive now, unfortunately, and often you'll find someone will sell the controller but not the dongle that you got to plug in, like the Game Boy Player, where you'll get the actual device that you plug into the bottom, but the disc that you need to be able to use it is always missing, which is an absolute pain.
There's one accessory that I only found out about recently that I'm really interested in, and that is the adapter that they've got to be able to plug in a Game Boy Advance. So when you're playing games like Zelda Four Swords, you can have players actually using a Game Boy Advance with it. And
Sonic
now
Adventure
now that I'm kind of getting into looking at restoring old Game Boys, part of me wants to just restore up some Game Boy Advances and grab some of those adapters and just try that whole mechanic out.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what it did. I know like Wind Waker and stuff, didn't it? It did it, but what did it? Did it download a little mini game to the Game Boy? I can't even remember what it did.
There was like features, and I think the what was it? The Sonic games had a few bits and pieces you could do.
Like Chow related stuff.
Yeah, I think with Four Swords, I think it's like if one of you went off from the main party, like you would continue on your own screen.
Yes.
Things like that. So it really expanded how you could do it. It's only, like I said, it's only something I've discovered recently. But
they basically stole the idea off Atari because Atari were going to do that with the Jaguar. You would be able to connect an Atari Lynx to do the Jaguar, and I don't know if it was going to be. I think it was going to be like a map screen for certain, like Alien versus Predator or something. Did they actually finalize that? And I don't think they did. I think they announced it. But yeah, Nintendo were the first ones to actually do it. Well, the only ones that really had a handheld, I guess, at that point in time. Yeah.
And I don't feel like we get accessories in quite the same way. Normally, they're just changes in peripherals or things to add on or to put like especially on the Nintendo ones, like with the nunchuck stuff. Just sort of add on to turn it into a racket and things. The GameCube especially really went all in on those things. So kind of like you were saying before, the bongos. Like, I can't imagine another company with another console doing something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably argue that the Dreamcast kind of established a lot of that stuff. You had like the Miraculous.
No, that's fair. Yeah,
but
they had
Nintendo
a ton
really
too.
Nintendo went nuts with it, absolutely in that gen, which was great. Yeah.
Chainsaw controller
handhelds as well.
Oh, the chainsaw controller. Yeah, was that the PS2 version of Resident Evil 4 though? Was it the GameCube?
The GameCube. I want to say it had it first, but Resident Evil 4 obviously came out first on the GameCube.
Yeah,
but there was certainly a GameCube and a PS2 version of that controller. But that was sort of quite impressive.
Great game as well. Probably the first one that I really enjoyed, because of the over-the-shoulder perspective. Really changed the game quite literally as to how you play it. A lot these days, I think you'd probably be better off playing there was an Xbox 360 remake of it, and I think it's on the Switch, isn't it? And like the PS4 and
Switch,
re-released like a billion times. But yeah, really good game.
I think one other thing I want to mention is that now, obviously, in what year we're in, 2022, there are so many sort of more things that you can do with it.
No, Stu, we're in 2020 Part 3. That's where we are at the moment.
2020. Let's wish it was still 2019.
Yeah.
And basically, these days, if you get a GameCube, you can connect it up to your HDMI TV very easily. You can easily take out the disk drive, put in another little widget,
ODE,
put a memory card, ODE, and play all the games, from a single SD card. And so it's actually there's a huge amount of things that you can sort of do with it to sort of Alistair was talking about the games costing so much, and things like Paper Mario cost a huge amount.
Oh yeah, Kirby Air Ride and
Kirby Air Ride.
Smash. Smash isn't cheap now, and the common games
No.
are expensive. Yeah.
Exactly, because everyone wants them, and there's so many new ways of actually playing the games that I think it's really sort of a great opportunity to get into it now.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a fair decent amount of experience with that now. In terms of sort of what you're touching upon, modding. It's probably out of all those consoles of that generation, I would say the GameCube's the easiest one. You can actually just armed with an action replay disc, and now a little device called oh god, what is it? SD to let me just look it up. SD to serial port 2, SD to SP2, which is a little circuit board. You just plug into the bottom of the GameCube, the serial port 2, and in that you can just pop an SD card. And if you've got an action replay, you can then there's kind of, if you've got a completely unmodified GameCube, what I had to do to get this to work is I had to get a memory card that you actually get this with the action replay. You get a memory card that lets you put an SD card into the memory card slot of your GameCube. And on that, you can load a bit of software called Swiss. And Swiss is a bit of software.
I've heard of Swiss, yeah.
Yeah. So it runs off this memory card SD adapter. You could just download it off the internet, bung Swiss on the memory card, on an SD card, plug the memory card or the SD card in the memory card, stick that in your GameCube, and the action replay disc will access that SD card. And then you run Swiss, and Swiss is a bit of software that allows you to run ISOs of GameCube games from either the memory card port, which is another way of doing it, or the way I do it is from that SD to SP2 little gadget that you've plugged into the bottom of your GameCube. So you can load up an SD card with as many GameCube games as you can fit. Again, this is all on a completely unmodded GameCube, and you can use with the action replay, Swiss, and the SD to SP2. You can then run those games on an unmodified GameCube. And you can even add patches to them. You can invert the camera controls to make them like modern camera controls. You can force 480p, so you can get progressive scan out of games that don't necessarily support it. Some games, there is even a widescreen mode that they've patch that they've applied, which actually forces more geometry to be displayed on the edges of the screen. So you can actually have some games playing it in an actual proper, I don't mean it's stretching across the full 16:9. It is a real 16:9 mode. And you can add like action replay cheats and everything. So yeah, I mean, the action replay disc, I mean, that's about 20 quid off Amazon when it comes with a little memory card gadget. And the SD to SP2 gadget, that's like, that's about £5 off eBay. So yeah,
wow.
Don't need to solder anything. You haven't got to remove the disk drive. You'll need the disk drive to run the action replay disc, but if you have disc games you still want to use, you can go ahead and still use those disc games. Word of advice: I would make sure all of your ISOs are from the same region, because Stu, you mentioned it earlier, you can't save different region games to a memory card. But yeah, get yourself a humongous memory card. They're pretty cheap. I recently got one that was like, I think 250 blocks for about 10 quid. And that covers you for like dozens of games. Playing, which, you obviously with a 512 gig like memory card, you better fit, a huge chunk of the GameCube's library. I think it's 460 games-ish around that came out. So yeah, I'll definitely advise. So you can imagine if you combine that with these, there's a lot of new cables that take advantage of that digital video out port. So you can jack straight into a HDMI port on your TV. Just combine that with these, the action replay and the SD to SP2 and a memory card and an SD card. You've got yourself an amazing, and even as like a really handy thing, it lets you there's a little thing you can have that will run alongside the game where you can reset back to the Swiss menu. So basically you can be as lazy as you like with your Wavebird, play the game you want to play, hit a button combination, and it will reset back to the menu and you can jump into your next game. So it's almost like having a hard drive inside a GameCube. You haven't got to, hit the reset button to get to another game. So yeah.
Have you ever played the GameCube 2, the white one?
The GameCube 2. What was the code name?
Yeah, do you know
of
the white one? It's got the flap on the top. Yeah. Some people call it that, but it's the GameCube 2.
That was an ingenious plan of Nintendo's, though, to pop those controller ports into the next console.
I would say they were used more for people to play Wii games with a GameCube controller, like Smash and like Mario Kart Wii. I don't think I ever used. I mean, we're sort of talking about now about modern ways of playing a GameCube with these various action replay and HDMI gadgets and SD to SP2. I think the GameCube is still probably the best way to play. Although with a Wii, you can use component cables, which are quite cheap and get a nice output. But obviously, a lot of the stuff that I've just talked about, you can't really do with a Wii. I mean, people mod Wiis, but it's a bit more involved, and you've got to do, it's kind of like modding a PSP or a Vita, which is not, really hard, but it's work. So I'd still sort of say, but I mean, you can mod a Wii U to play GameCube games. You can't run the discs.
There's loads of ways of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, with that, you've got HDMI, by default, because the Wii U uses the same PowerPC CPU as the same lineage as the GameCube and the Wii, so it can run those games. So yeah, there's a lot of ways. Dolphin on the PC, the emulator is really great. You can obviously upscale those games to 1080p. And
named after the code name for the GameCube.
Yeah, that's right. And like we're saying, the artwork was really good already. The character models and the graphics that the GameCube could produce, it was some of the better stuff from that generation. And upscaled, it looks like a modern game. I was playing like Mario Golf Toadstool Tour on Dolphin, and it looked like a Switch game, upscaled to 1080p. It looked fantastic. And you haven't got, the good thing with the GameCube is you've kind of got like a lot of the Wii games, there was a GameCube like equivalent really, and you haven't got to worry about the you having to use a Wiimote. Zelda Twilight Princess, there was a GameCube version of that. You haven't got to wave a nunchuck around. So yeah. Well, any final thoughts from anybody on the GameCube? What are your final thoughts, Al?
Just that I think it's just a wholly underrated system, and for anybody who didn't really, who was like me and kind of, decided just to stay clear of it when it came out, it's certainly worth going back to, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And what about you, Stu?
I think I'm going to say the same thing. Really, it's a pretty good console. And there's so much you can do with it, with sort of modding it and things like that. So you don't have to be sort of worried about I've got to get an old TV and all of that. There are things you do to easily get the sort of the library of games without having to sort of spend the earth and yeah, it's a good machine and does Nintendo justice.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really good system, really easy to get going in modern day as well, so check it out. We really do recommend it, although you might struggle with the cost of some of those games, but there are ways to mitigate that, of course. So, Al, thanks for joining us again. Obviously, we want you to keep joining us on an ongoing basis where the schedules permit, but where can we find you out there on the old interwebs?
Well, you can find me and everything I'm up to at alistairmcfly.com, and Trev and I do a Star Trek podcast. It's a retrospective series, which you can find over at longrangesensors.com. Yes, so if you like a bit of the old Star Treks, you can check us out on there. If you're not sick of us already, which I hope you're not, you can listen to us talk about stuff again. Stu, where can you find all the Console Shock stuff?
So the easiest way is to find our podcast on all different podcast clients, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, our Apple Podcasts. You can find us on there, search Console Shock. Facebook page, search Console Shock. And the YouTube and Twitter, we're on there as Console Shock.
Cool. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us on this latest episode of Console Shock. Take care, and we shall see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.